Hey there everybody, this is Jay over the MARZ Project, and we're back again with Mo to talk about some more accessible equipment, and I think this time we're having more of a focus on like software and probably particularly easily accessible software. So yeah, I guess we'll get started right away and I'll hand it over to Mo. So let me turn, Corey's here too, as always. Yeah, so let's go. There you are, Mo. We can see you.
Hello.
We should be able to hear. Yep, we can hear you too.
Yes.
Right.
So
what are we talking about this week?
I figured we'll just
softwares?
talk about software. And much like we did last week when we just kind of talked about some things we knew about and some things we had experience with, I figured between the three of us we could probably talk about our favorite software, kind of leaning more into what's free or easily accessible, or it's somewhere in our community that you can use it. But I figure we'll just start and talk about what we use, what we have used, what we've liked. I personally am pretty far away from post-production things, or just not in the same capacity. Like I used to make a lot of short films or music videos, and so I was really critical about the editing software I would use and what it was able to do for me. So I used a lot of Final Cut and DaVinci back when I was doing more hefty production editing, but now I've settled just on the Mac applications and the Mac softwares, because really I don't do much more than some video overlay. Maybe I'll rip some audio and layer it with some photos or something, some dance videos. So nothing that I really need too much help with. Like I feel like when I was younger, I used to really want to be doing these really cool editing tricks, and it was helpful to have software that had like all those capabilities. So yeah, I use iMovie, or the things that come on the Apple products is like iMovie, GarageBand, and I think that's it, like the camera option, I guess. Yeah. And I definitely noticed the difference in how iMovie can process things and the rate in which it does, which I guess has, reflects on the computer I'm using as well. But, it has a lot of your just beginner options. I can put filters over my video. I can reverse it. I can crop it. I can do some lighting changes in that application. And it feeds right to video sources. So like YouTube or Vimeo. So you can like connect your account and upload your video straight from iMovie to the web, which is cool. I feel like it does the same thing for Facebook. I haven't updated in a while, so I wouldn't be surprised if it does even more than it does now.
What operating system are you using?
Um, I don't know.
Mm.
I haven't even thought about it in over a year.
Well, there you go. Gives me some information. I'm also in the Mac world. I'm using an older Mac. This is for 7-year-old computer now, but it does everything I need it to do. I'm running. I think I'm one OS behind. I'm on Mojave, I think it's called.
Yeah, now I'm like,
older.
I want to know.
Yeah, as far as like, I've always been a PC guy, so like, instead of iMovie, I was using started out with like Windows Movie Maker, back in the day. That was
I used that as well. That's funny.
That was
came up
definitely
with my Google search, and I kind of chuckled.
Yeah, that was. You definitely recognize still things that are made with Windows Movie Maker. Like those transitions are very signature. But I definitely say it's not. It wouldn't be the. It wouldn't be. As far as like simple, when we in the video editing world, there's one I've started messing with that's free called Shotcut, and it's very similar to. It's got some similarities to to Premiere. But it's very much like simplified. That's a really good like open source film editor. There's actually not a whole lot of them as far as ones that are open source. Of course, like if I were to recommend anybody anything, it would be DaVinci, just because there is a free version, and the free version is pretty full featured. I even like doing my own projects, I hardly ever hit the paywall of it. There's no, it's not a time trial. It's not it's not a 30-day trial or whatever. It's, it's just certain features are disabled. And most of them are just like effects more advanced effects that, if you're doing basic editing, you don't really need. I'd say maybe if you're like doing music videos, like a bunch of music videos, it might be nice to have the studio version, or like really advanced color grading. But otherwise, it's really full featured for a free program. Definitely a big supporter of Blackmagic and all their stuff. I mean, we're running ATEM, which is the same company that makes DaVinci. They make these ATEM switchers, so it's all the same, like all branded the same, like their cameras too. If you end up buying one of their like pocket cinema cameras that are really popular, you get the full like studio version of DaVinci Resolve, which is awesome. It's not a subscription program like so many of the Adobe or like all the Adobe ones are.
Yeah. Seems so many people are switching over to that subscription model right now.
Yeah,
it's frustrating.
It's tough. I think like if you're doing like a project, like doing 1 month of a project and you only need it for a month, it can be nice.
Right.
And like pay for it for a month and then use it, and then maybe another project comes up.
Yeah, like pay as you go.
Yeah, cancel your subscription, of course, but at MARZ here, you try to definitely a big supporter of the open source stuff. Of course, Blender is a big open source project that's pretty popular here at MARZ.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Premiere. Mm-hmm. I also think that Adobe was catching on that the subscription wasn't the best value, because now if you have an account with them, they like send you classes. Oh. So then you can basically like learn how to get the most out of all their applications. So they'll send you like there's all types of different things, and they'll be like, this is the application we're like teaching people about today. Here it is. And then like these are your things you can join. And it's all included in your subscription. Because I agree, if you're not either like using it all day every day, or using it for a month and then canceling it or something, it definitely is a pricey tool.
It adds up. It really does. Yeah, I'd love to, we do have the Adobe Creative Cloud here. Of course, like Photoshop is probably the big one that I do like to use still. So, I mean, like for a lot of people, I feel like there's one program in there that they really want to use. And
yeah, I also, though, like I use Photoshop all the time for just everyday things, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
But I also remember when it was like I would buy it once for $50, and then your code works for 4 years or whatever it was, and it's like
the good old days.
I don't even know how that translates to $20 a month later down the line. But yeah, like when you would go get the box for software at like Best Buy or the computer store or whatever, yeah. And it was like $50-$60, yeah, and you would have it for a couple of years at that base rate.
Like that's like a good deal for software now, unfortunately, So like for music stuff, you mentioned GarageBand is like a really useful thing that's like at least like kind of accessible, but there's not a lot of cool Windows software that's cheap or free. Like there isn't something like GarageBand for Windows that I'm aware of. I've looked, and so there are like free like digital audio workstations that are pretty full featured, but I find them confusing looking. Like it's not the sort of tool I'd want to give to a beginner and be like, oh nuts, like I find like the things we use confusing enough. But GarageBand is just so easy to look at, and they hide all the like scary looking stuff.
It's so user friendly.
It really is, and it makes like a nice path to like a more advanced program. If you want to upgrade to Logic, you can hide a lot of the more advanced UI elements of Logic and get like a GarageBand looking thing with all the crazy features. Yeah. And that program's only $200. Like you pay like $900 or like $1,000 for something equivalent from somewhere else. So like the cost of entry into the Mac ecosystem is expensive because of the hardware, but you can get old hardware and still run it. Like I said, this is a 7-year-old computer, or I have like the base model iPad, really, under $300, and it runs all this software that if you were gonna put together a cheap Windows PC and then buy a few pieces of software or use open source or whatever, like you're getting into that ballpark of spending anyways. For music, I really like this program called Ableton Live. It's super popular for electronic music production and all kinds of stuff, but it's like not cheap. We have it here because it was donated here a long time ago, and we get grants to like upgrade it periodically. But there's just like nothing that comes even close that's open source or free.
Well, it seems interesting that the music world seems to be more like, I mean, I guess the graphic world is like there are those premium programs like like Illustrator and Photoshop, which are kind of like the industry standard. But it seems like in the audio,
I can't think of even one free like design app unless you're gonna go to a web page.
Yeah, there's a lot of web pages. Of course, like I think the biggest ones, the biggest alternatives for Photoshop, the biggest one alternative is GIMP. GIMP is a big like Photoshop alternative. That's kind of what most people would teach. Although I don't typically use it, I've never been like a huge fan of it, but it does have a lot of the features that Photoshop has. I actually really like, if I'm doing Photoshop, a lot of times I'm doing like masking or like removing backgrounds from stuff. That's what I always use it for. But as far as like digital art goes, I love Krita. Krita's
Oh,
really
yep.
awesome. It's definitely not a Photoshop. It's more for the drawing, digital drawing, and things like that. But it has a lot of cool tools for that sort of digital art environment, and that's free and open source. It's a good partner app to Blender if you're doing texture painting and things like that. Yeah, and then for Illustrator, Inkscape is also another really popular one. I love Inkscape, actually. I prefer that over Illustrator.
I've heard that from a number of people.
Yeah, it's just.
And that's the software you can download, or that's on the internet?
It's a download.
Yeah, it's download.
Okay.
That's cross-platform.
Yeah, I never heard of that. I'm like stuck in my software ways, so I'm like, I feel like I could probably learn a thing or two about software. Especially it's like new all the time.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like a
well
updated project. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
And like I definitely know like Katie, Katie Texas, who used to work for MARZ and do all of the design. Like that's her preferred program.
Mm-hmm.
Does everything she needs it to do.
Yeah, I've always liked Inkscape. I've used it a lot. Used it a lot at CR. Did most of my graphics projects in Inkscape. You can do some like basic animation stuff with it too. The way that it's built, you can render out different layers, and it's of course it's vector art, so you can, it's a little more technical, I guess. When you have, your raster graphic editor, which is like Photoshop or GIMP or Krita, and then you have your vector art, which is Illustrator and Inkscape. I don't think of another one that's popular. Those are the two. I think Inkscape is the usual alternative to Illustrator.
Totally.
Illustrator's pretty intimidating.
Yeah, I agree.
It has a lot of cool features. I think my favorite one is probably their the ability to like raster or to vectorize a raster graphic, which is really weird, but it's very useful if you like say a client gives you a logo that's way too small. You could put it in there and run it through its like run it through its process of whatever it does, and turns it and tries to make it into a vector graphic.
Yeah.
Which is really cool, really useful. That saves a lot of time.
Yeah, it's quick.
So,
but I agree that I feel like I was like, oh, like Illustrator is what you use to, make vector images or like better digital art. Because I would just use Photoshop for everything. And then it was like so long to troubleshoot that I felt like I was wasting so much time, watching these little illustration tutorials, and it's like not coming out. And I'm like, what's even happening? And then I'd end up back in Photoshop. But once you figure it out, or like, I don't even use it for that many things, but I'll use it to like vectorize an image, or a lot of the time if I draw something, I'll scan it into Illustrator before I then put it in to Photoshop.
Yeah.
But I agree, like I'm still like, I don't really, like I use it, but I don't, because I don't know it as well as everything else. But I've also never like taken a class in it or anything where I feel like Photoshop, I was taught how to use Photoshop like in a classroom. Mm-hmm. So I feel like my questions were always answered, or there were like specific projects we were doing that really like harness your knowledge of Photoshop. And that did not happen. Like Illustrator was not, I don't know if it was out yet or if it just wasn't populated or what the deal was, but I can follow a YouTube tutorial, generally speaking, on like any of these softwares, but Illustrator leaves me kind of in the dust.
Yeah, I would definitely, if anybody was interested in vector art, I would get into Inkscape.
I got it on my desktop now. I'm like, I'm gonna download that and try it.
Yeah, we'll have to do a demo of that sometime. That'd be a fun one to show off. I'm a bit rusty, but I definitely like to show that off. That would be fun. It's pretty useful for a lot of things.
I ended up using it for like graphic design stuff.
Yeah.
Katie turned me on to like I always use like GIMP or something like that, and manipulating text in GIMP sucks.
Oh yeah.
Like it's really not fun. So like with the text as a vectorized layer, you can like do all kinds of wacky stuff to it, and like
that's cool.
manipulate it in all kinds of ways that, like just making simple like flyers for shows and things like that. Like it was a way better tool for that.
That's cool because I feel like that's like the extent of my digital like illustration is like logos and flyers. So, and then I also use Lightroom, which is more of like a photography application. But I actually used to work in a finishing studio a long time ago also, and that was like what we would use, and it was just so perfect for like bulk imaging, like if you were in the same setting with a series of shots or something, or you're a lot of the time like I would shoot with my film camera, so then I would go through and like spot clean up, and it was like super easy to navigate. Just basic things like that. It's really just for like photo retouching, but it's super easy. I've actually had it on my computer for so long I don't even know if it's free.
No, it's part of the Creative Cloud. Lightroom is great though. I definitely use it for all my photography stuff. There are a few alternatives. None are quite as comprehensive when editing, like if you're doing raw image editing. When I say raw, I guess for those of you that might not be familiar, some cameras allow you to shoot in a uncompressed image format, which is essentially a JPEG or a PNG or anything like that. Compresses the image, it throws out all the information it doesn't need, and leaves you with a compressed image. It's like, say you had like, spaghetti, and it was just on the plate. It's not like, I guess is a good way to think about it. It's just there, it's not.
I love this. Where's this going?
Yeah, it's like
I also was like, where is this going?
You've got it like, you've got it out and it's in all its glory, but then you put it in a freeze lock bag, and like suction it all down and compress it into like, its base form. It's not really spaghetti anymore. I mean, it looks like it. You can tell it's spaghetti, but it's missing like.
It's still spaghetti, yes.
Yeah, it's like in that container. Right.
It's not spaghetti in its truest form.
Right. It's not edible at that moment. It's not like... So think of it like if you took that like vacuum sealed spaghetti and tried to like eat it, obviously that wouldn't work. Same with like a photo. If you take a JPEG and you throw it into Lightroom, you can still manipulate some stuff, but it's going to kind of... it can be you lose out some of the quality of it. You can force it to be brighter or more contrasty, or bring out a color, but it's not all going to be there. But with a raw image, all that information is still in the photo. All that light information is still there, so you can bring out colors that you may not even have seen in the camera's like, okay, this is what I think these colors are. And here's this picture. It's like you feel free to like manipulate it. It's kind of hard to like explain, I guess. If I were to do a demo of it, I think that would be another cool thing to showcase, like trying to edit a raw photo versus a JPEG photo or PNG photo.
Yeah. Or I would just encourage folks like take a picture, go to your camera setting and take a few different pictures.
The same, yeah, different formats.
And with the format, the different formats, and you'll see it different. Yeah. And you can get like so much closer up and bigger, and like your sizes, or you have more available sizes.
There's an audio analogy here, right? So some people, or probably a lot of people, are familiar with the sound of like crummy streaming audio, or like crummy streaming video, like our Zoom calls kind of going off the rails here. In terms of bitrate. So this is a compressed, like those are compressed file formats, right? Video streams and audio streams are compressed formats, and so they chuck anything out that you don't need. So we've probably all heard like low quality audio if you listen to like drummers play, the cymbals sound all wacky. Like,
we're getting a little bit of feedback from your headphones.
oh really? Oh, that's exciting.
Just a little bit. If you
I can switch them out.
maybe just if you turn it down just a little tiny bit, it should be okay.
Sure. So like when you get like anyways, what it's throwing out is like the MP3s throw out like the real super high frequency information, like stuff that is hard for us to hear, and like my hearing doesn't go really that high. Probably y'all's doesn't either. Mine's probably worse than yours, but it does when you start checking out that information. It does like this wacky stuff that you can hear.
Yeah.
And it's not like so much that it gets in the way of us understanding what's going on in the song or whatever, but like.
Right. Same with the picture. Like you can get
Exactly.
get rid of a lot of that color information, or even like anything in the shadow. Like you can throw that all out, and you can still like you could take just like pixel art. Like you could take a pixel art picture of a of a tree, and you can still like there's really not there's only a few bytes of information there, and you can still tell that it's a tree.
Yeah.
Just like you probably still like tell like what a dog bark sounds like, even if it's like compressed to a tiny 100 kilobyte file. You could definitely you could go pretty far before it's unrecognizable.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, you just end up with like a tone or a single color.
Yeah,
like
eventually.
One bit of sound would just be like.
Yeah, one bit of sound, right? So in sound, like the bit depth is how like how many bits you use to represent a sample is how many levels of volume you can represent. So
Okay.
a 1-bit sound has 2 levels of volume, 100% and 0.
Mm-hmm.
So like we actually hear 1-bit sounds kind of often, or like things kind of come out like little like beeps or like alarms. It's like kind of like a one bit sound. It's just like an off, like just on off at a certain rate gives you a tone.
Right.
Anyways,
It's really
That's
interesting.
really
all
nerdy
the
stuff.
correlations between like, I mean, it's all about like how files are managed, like, and that's probably the crossover of it is just like how the computers read files and like whether it's how the compression algorithms,
right.
like, and how it's the same whether it's a, I mean not quite the same, but I guess with, because like say H.264, which is a very common video compression algorithm, has a formula for audio too, because it's compressing both the audio that's linked to that file and the visuals and the video, and I think those are, I guess if you, there is a certain type of audio format that like correlates with that type of video format. Because I know, like, say you have a good one, an easy one to understand is like MP3, which is music, and then you have MP4, which is video. It's like, it's there's some, you can get really into it as far as like compression, but that's another thing when like picking software, you have to make sure that your software is compatible with whatever file format you're using. Definitely.
Yeah, and I feel like it's depending on how many times the file's been moved too. So like I feel like a lot of the time, depending on what kind of storage you have, you might have to compress your files to like bring them
Oh yeah, if you gotta fit
somewhere
it on a
to
flash drive or
manipulate
something.
them.
Luckily,
Yeah,
it's not
like
as
if
big of
you-
a problem anymore.
No, I
As it
guess.
used to
Well,
be.
I mean, for who, right?
True.
So, but yeah. So if you have software at home, then and you like shoot something and then put it right on your computer, I guess you have more leeway.
Yeah, sometimes you
In
need
that
to
sense.
convert those files. Even like, I know there's some file formats that like DaVinci doesn't like, or that the encoding is wrong. Like it doesn't know. Like back to the spaghetti analogy, it's like the program has to somehow unpack that to actually get that information out.
Yeah.
To see it. And so like if the program's like, I don't know what this is, like if you handed somebody this spaghetti that's been in your fridge and it's like you can't even tell, they don't know that it's spaghetti, they're not going to know what to do with it.
Yeah,
they're
how to eat it, what to eat it with.
Yeah, it's like, what do I do with this? Like, like it's just a frozen block of something. Like, you know, I don't know how to uncompress this. Like, do I need to, you know? But like a certain program knows how to do it. So
You know, so much stress. I'm triggered.
unpack.
I just looked up something because I was curious.
What did Corey find?
H.264 doesn't deal with audio at all.
Oh, it doesn't.
Yeah, it's purely video.
So how does it?
To package it with audio, you have to package it together in a container format of some kind.
Right. Okay. So like, if you do that, then your videos, a lot of times, right. So it's an MP. That codec is the, right. It's the
MP4.
codec. It is the compression format. It's not the container. Like MP4 is the container.
Yes.
Right.
Which I suspect contains. Well, I guess I'm gonna look it up. What is audio inside of MPEG for?
It's really interesting. I mean, we're kind of getting into the
into
the nitty gritty of like file formatting, but like, you know, it does like, it is gonna, you know, be a determinant factor in what program you end up picking as far as, you know, what file formats you can use. But most are, I think more and more now, it's most programs are can access most information.
AAC.
AAC? Audio format?
Yep.
And these all mostly have like their acronyms for something.
Yeah, so that's it's called Advanced Audio Coding. That got popular.
AAC.
I feel like I got pushed by Apple kind of early as like an alternative to MP3.
Oh, okay.
I think a lot of iTunes Store downloads. Oh yeah, it's the default iPhone format. Because MP3, like there's like a patent on it or whatever.
Oh,
like, you had to like pay like a licensing fee to use it or whatever, like for forever. So when they were getting into the business of selling audio files, they switched to a open source format.
And a lot of Mac stuff uses like MOV, right? That's typically their
yeah.
Yeah, like
so.
iMovie.
Do MOV, which is,
I believe my phone. Yeah, so it's that's a QuickTime format. That's like
QuickTime,
a native
that's what it is.
Mac video.
I feel like that's kind of, I've never really liked MOV format stuff. Maybe just because I've always done PC. I've always typically stuck to MP4.
Yeah.
I think YouTube, I like default. Most programs have like, when you go to render something, they'll have like a default for like a preset for certain applications. Like say you're uploading it to, you know, YouTube, it'll be like H.264 compression, you know, in this MP4 container.
It's interesting because it shoots H.264 video. My phone does, but it packages it as an MOV file.
It's really interesting. So the code, the compression algorithm can be then contained in different formats.
Absolutely. That I did not understand that distinction before, but now I do.
So, let's see. What have we gone over? We've talked about video editors. We talked about photo editors. And graphic editors.
Audio editors.
Audio
We
editors.
didn't talk about Audacity yet, did we?
Oh, no.
That's pretty crucial. I think everyone needs to know about that software. Even though I like kind of hate it. Like I
don't like it either.
I despise it.
But it's just because of the way it's set up.
Yes, the
like,
UI.
I like to see my boxes more clearly.
Yeah, the UI is really
That's
bad.
all.
Let's just think all audio software that's open source seems to suffer from this problem of like a terrible UI.
We got a comment in chat.
Oh.
Why don't you talk about Audacity?
Yeah. What up? We're talking Audacity talk. Yeah, so
what did the comment say?
It says hi.
Guys.
We say hi back. Thanks for tuning in.
Hello.
We just lost a viewer. Yeah, so Audacity is like an audio editor, and it does pretty much everything that you need to do, like in a really nuts and bolts kind of way.
Uh-huh.
What's unpleasant about it is that most of the editing is like offline, like So usually in audio, we're used to being able to apply effects and then listen to them in real time to sounds. In Audacity, at least the last time I used it, all of it was like offline processing. So if I want to say like apply distortion to sound, I select the amount of distortion that I want to add, hit render, it renders the file, and then I hear the results. And that's like completely not how music software generally works. Like it's like super clunky and bizarre to me.
It's just time consuming.
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah.
like when, especially when I can like click a filter on GarageBand and hear it back immediately. It's like, and then it was just hard for me to track where I was in my audio, or at least for me personally. Like with GarageBand, it's just easy to see everything at once, and kind of like you can see where the audio changes, which Audacity does have the wavelengths. Yeah. But it's just like, I don't know if it's just crammed or what it is, but it's just like there was no distinction between things for me. So I found out like one of the first times I used it, I remember I kept deleting parts that I didn't want to delete and would be keeping parts that I didn't want to keep. And I'd be like, ugh, now I have to go back and like redo it.
Right. So here's the main problem with it is that it's like a destructive editor.
Oh, Audacity is?
Yeah, this is the free alternative software.
Audacity.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So it's like it's great if you need to destructively edit a piece of audio, but it's actually like a terrible tool for like doing what you're talking about, which is like sounds like multi like tracking things out, like editing like things. It's not really intended to be like a timeline editor in the same way that like the video editing software y'all been talking about is, you know, like that's more of like the realm of the digital audio workstation. Like
the DAW.
The DAW. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I wonder, like, I didn't get too far into it, but it was like GarageBand's also appealing because it has sound effects available to put in. Whereas like I don't even know if Audacity does things like that, or I have to like go locate my sound, download put it into Audacity.
So I think this has a great deal to do with why like music production software is paid, because like most people are like want it for like not just like the ability to manipulate stuff, but they want like some sort of sound library to work with. You know, like maybe some like virtual instruments or like sound effects, samples, loops, and all that stuff. You know. So that's why like a lot of the software gets really expensive, because they just come with all these additional tools aside from just like the nuts and bolts like editor, you know. Of course, there's like tons of like if you get the right kind of application, like GarageBand hosts third-party plugins like in AU format. There's another more popular format called VST that is cross-platform, and so like. You can get all kinds. There's also these tons of cool third-party tools. Hey, thanks for tuning in, Serena. Tons of third-party tools that are free for music making, like synthesizers, EQs, compressors, like anything you can imagine, saturation. Like I use tons of free tools in my production. But the host software is like I paid big bucks for that thing. You know, like I have a Ableton suite, which is I think 800 something for the full program. I get it, you know, the educational discount. It's 40% off, so it's pretty great. But like,
that's good. But again, I think we've talked about this over and over again. It's like if you're using it, then it's like it, you know, comes down to being worth it.
Yeah. If you've got the Creative Cloud suite, Audition is actually I actually really enjoy working with Audition. All these A names, I get them all confused.
Yeah, there's so many.
Audacity, Ableton, Audition. Audition is Adobe's one, and it's with the cloud, you know, Creative Cloud, and it has some really great tools. I've used it a lot in companion with DaVinci Resolve. DaVinci does have some good audio editing stuff, but if I was to just like do a recording and needed to record something, I would probably use Audition. It's got some pretty straightforward EQ and compression tools and things like that.
It's very much more like a get the job done kind of a program.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
you know, like...
And it's got that multi-track editing as well, if you need
right.
to.
Although it seems like mostly what people do is like simpler stuff, like maybe like podcast editing kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't seem to be a program where people are doing a lot of creative music applications. So it's definitely more of like a media production tool.
Yeah, I think so too. It's kind of the companion. It's kind of the sound companion to Premiere, I think, to like motion, video stuff. Of course, that doesn't, I'm typically taking audio recorded from a camera and like doing some EQing or slight adjustments or compression to it. So that's pretty useful for my application. I haven't found another. I do use Audacity sometimes, mostly just for recording. Its feature set is pretty basic. Yeah. Comparatively.
I made an album in it once.
No, really?
I must have hated myself.
Wow.
At the time. It was what I had, like I was like 18 and like was like
but I guess if you know how to make all those sounds, then like that makes sense. Or like
I had
oftentimes I forget.
And a condenser mic and a guitar and a synthesizer and like I banged on some stuff and like nice. But it was so frustrating. It was so frustrating. I wouldn't recommend this to anyone. Like, like there's whole tracks. Like I still like bitter because there's like whole tracks that I lost because like it's destructive. Like I did something to it and then like accidentally saved over what I had or something. Like it's gone. So it's not really designed for that. Like Ableton has like versioning of projects and it makes it really easy to like unlimited undo, like all kinds of stuff like that. There's actually you cannot destructively edit anything in that program.
Wow.
Which sometimes you wish you could, but you never lose anything that way. So
project must get pretty large in size then if you.
So yeah, project management totally becomes a thing. Cause, because you imagine you do some like long recording and then you only need like a little snippet of it. If you're not careful to snip that out and then save it as its own file and then like not ditch the big file. I've like done things where like so you can like there's a thing called exporting stems. This is one thing you can't do in GarageBand. All right, so like the GarageBand is not does not let you share projects in any convenient way except between other GarageBand users or Logic users. If you want to like export your GarageBand song to have someone else mix in a different software, it is a huge pain. It's incredible pain. Yeah. Wow, why did I bring up exporting stems? Oh yeah, so like I was exporting stems and so like this is what the stems are. It's like different instruments. You might have like a drum stem, like a guitar stem, where you just have all the drums, all the guitars, all the vocal stems, or whatever. And so like you export stem, and then I want to like sample one of those drums for another track. So like I grabbed like a single drum hit, but like I forgot to crop and edit it out, and my single drum hit is like a 85 megabyte like giant audio file. And then you should like end up with like 200 megabyte file or something, depending on how long it was, and then like you end up with a bunch of those in your track accidentally, and you start to go off the rails. I suppose if we're talking about software stuff, like file management is a huge important thing to do. Like just knowing where your files are at, making sure you're not duplicating them all over your hard drive, unless you want to. Know how to back stuff up.
Yeah. But I mean, like backing up on your hard drive is not really backing it up.
Oh yeah, exactly, yeah.
Because if your hard drive goes, you're losing all of it. It doesn't matter if you saved in 3-4 different locations.
Yeah. So a free software tool I use all the time is Time Machine on the Mac. I'm not sure if there's a convenient Windows equivalent to this, but I just like plug in an external hard drive and it clones my drive.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think you can do save states. Like built into, I think if you partition your drive, you can save a partition of your current like state of your desktop.
What's really cool about Time Machine is like if you have a big enough like an oversized enough drive for it, you can in the file browser like go back in time and open up your computer as it was 6 months ago and grab a file from it. That's totally saved me a few times.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Like, it's completely a lifesaver.
Time Machine is clutch.
Totally.
Google Drive is trying to like adapt a similar idea where you can like look at past versions of things, but I don't know if it goes as far as finding a file that was deleted.
Yeah. Oh man, it was amazing. I forget what it was, like some way earlier version of a project for a client or something. Like, yeah, it was great to have. So I have a couple of those drives, like because you can't back it up to the same drive. It's got to be in a different physical location. So I have I keep one in a fireproof little safe.
There you go.
I got really paranoid.
Yeah, it's good to do. It's good to back up your stuff, especially when you get a lot of video projects. Can be very much like that when you have hours of footage or like hours of submitted footage, even, or just like 100 different takes of something.
Yeah,
and that can happen. You end up with 200 gigs of 4K video or something, like
for a single project.
For one project. Yeah, it can be a lot. Definitely backing up. Video is a big like storage hog, especially when you get up in the higher quality stuff. Even like 1080 60 can be.
There's something I do hate about iMovie. It's like if you want good quality, it just makes your file so freaking big.
Oh yeah,
but it's kind of there's no way around that.
Yeah,
but yes, understood. But I feel like theirs is like even bigger.
Oh, like it's like super raw.
Yeah, like I don't know if that's just me, but I feel like every time I'm having issues with file size, it's coming from iMovie, and it's like similar movie size and quality, but iMovies tends to be like bigger for some reason.
Could be the way they compress things.
Or don't.
Or don't compress things.
At least like it's with like uncompressed audio, like the files are still pretty manageable. Like it doesn't get too crazy until you start recording really high resolution stuff, which unless you're tracking like bands where you have like 12, 16, 20 channels of audio running for several minutes at a time over and over again, But again, we're talking minutes instead of hours. Like,
right, yeah, it's easy.
Like if you're doing a big long shoot or something.
Yeah, it's easy to get an hour or 2 hours of like, if you're doing an event or something, it's super easy to end up with 2 or 3 hours of footage, and that's from one camera.
Right.
Say you're running 3 cameras and you have them all running for 2 hours. You've already tripled the amount of footage you have. And then you got to put that somewhere and you got to back it up and then you got to edit it. So, you're luckily a lot of the programs you can do some file management like within them when you upload the videos, which is nice. I really like DaVinci's way of handling like in organizing uploaded videos. Premiere does a really good job too, but there's definitely a lot to like file management and naming your things too. Doesn't matter what program you're using or what application. If you don't name something, then Untitled Document 3 is not going to help you. So
I'm like so guilty of using my space bar to like peek at things and try to figure out what it is because I never name things.
Yeah,
it's easy to do. It's easy to do that. And is that like a preview mode on Mac?
That's a Mac thing.
Yeah, if you're in a Mac and you're like in a file choosing a file to upload or something, if you press space bar, it will like give you a little preview.
Works pretty much like anywhere in the Finder.
Interesting.
So it's like really handy
if
like
Finder.
you just like peek into any kind of file, like works with PDF.
Or even like on your desktop.
Yeah.
If you click on something or like highlight something and press space bar, it will pop big.
Interesting.
It works with like spreadsheets.
Did not know that.
I'm just like testing it.
Yeah, I lived in that in that space bar feature.
It works with GarageBand projects. Like it actually, here, check out my screen. Like like here's a random like song I made in GarageBand, and like bloop.
Oh.
Like it's actually like a screenshot of what the project looked like at the last time.
I love that like
Weird.
version of showing us what that project looks like. They're like, here's some drum
Yeah, totally.
and
Like,
claps.
seems like this dude didn't know what to do with his snares and claps. Like, is the big takeaway.
I love that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, what a weird thing.
Yeah, that would be nice. I guess you have the preview. You sort of have a preview on the Windows thing, but it's not quite like that.
Yeah.
Of course, I just make my icons huge.
Right.
And I can just see like the thumbnail of the video.
Yeah, there you go.
As a person who like works back and forth between like Mac and Windows like world, like there's like things I really like about both of them, and it's like really frustrating. Like the Windows, like the recently created or recently added files folder.
Oh yeah.
There's nothing like that on a Mac.
Huh.
Like I've looked into like adding it as a third party solution. I think you can like buy an app.
Oh really?
That. But like yeah, it's not
Like
like I have a folder on here. I tried to make it like there's like a recently created document.
Yeah, my recents aren't like the things that pop up under my recent aren't recent.
No.
Unless
Not
they're
at all.
upside down.
It's only like certain things that will generate it. Like when you save a PDF, it generates them. So, but like
yeah, my list is so strange. I'm looking at it now.
Yeah.
I'm like, none of this
I'm looking
is
at it now
that
too.
recent.
It's things I've saved from my email and GarageBand files from when I jammed with someone like once. Yeah, and that's it. None of the audio files I've exported from any of my audio apps appear in this thing, but they do in the Windows one.
Oh. Yeah, I need to adapt like some of the better habits that I tried to like teach my youth in the past or like my students in the past, because I get so used to just having my workspaces that like I don't share with people, that I feel like I leave everything like vulnerably and like unlabeled all over the place. Like periodically I'll go to my desktop and just like clean it, because I'll like just have things in random places, re-downloading the same image because I didn't like save it somewhere smart. Like working not smarter but harder. So
yeah, it's it definitely is a learning process. We just did the editing for this year's Kinetic Sculpture race, and that's a lot of submitted content from a lot of different people, a lot of different file formats, a lot of different a lot of different challenges, a lot of different categories. So all that, the only way to organize it was like, we had a number system and a category system to organize all the files, and it was something probably like close to 50 submitted videos, all that needed to be labeled and, properly with team names and challenge name and all that sort of stuff, and then sorted appropriately. A really cool system in DaVinci is I think you probably do it in audio stuff is oh yeah. Yep, Kinetics is this weekend live streaming on Access Humboldt. We're where was I? Oh, talking about, so in DaVinci, when you upload files, you can flag stuff with different colors of flags. So you can be like, oh, this is, this take is from this challenge, so I want to, flag all these as a yellow flag or a red flag for this challenge. And then that flag kind of follows that file around throughout the project, and you can see, when you go to you can organize by the flag colors, and then you have, everything's been organized, then, you can do it by file format, or you can do it by by these flags, and it's a really useful way to keep things organized within your project. It's the file management is huge, especially too when you're not just in video but in doing like any 3D projects as well. I have stuff in Blender. I always stress to my students that are learning that to like name your stuff or you're gonna lose it. Like you can't keep it as cube 1. You don't know what cube 1 could be. Cube 1 could be a tree, and you would not know that because it's still like by default named cube 1. You're like, what am I gonna like? What is this random thing here that I and when you go to color it or go to texture it or or do anything with it. You're like trying to find what object it is, or like,
there's a huge one with audio recording,
Uh-huh.
where or at least with Ableton, or pretty much any program, like if you name the track before you start recording, it'll write the files with the name of that track.
Oh,
so if
okay.
you don't name your tracks in Ableton, all your audio files are called audio 1 audio 1 or whatever. So if you are needing to go back and pull out an individual file from some project, it becomes completely impossible.
Oh, you have to listen. You have to listen to them. I guess that's one thing with audio. You can't just
you can't look at it.
Look at it right in the file browser. You have to you have to go and hear it.
What's kind of maddening is that very few audio preview applications show you the waveform. It would be so helpful.
Oh, that'd be kind of cool, yeah.
Because you know what? You don't know how much silence
button.
is in there.
Yeah.
There could be
true.
it could be a minute of silence, and then someone just be like, "Yeah."
Yeah,
gotta,
that's true too. Right?
Yeah,
you would see that. You're like, that's not what I'm looking for. It's quiet.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you might just skip over it. You're like, oh, you just happen to you pick 5 different spots, but they all look silent spots.
I'm sure you begin to recognize the waveforms, right? I'm sure you could probably pick out if you've been working on a project, you're probably okay, this is.
I mean, when you stare at so many, you can kind of recognize if you don't see them in the context.
Oh,
right,
context,
they all kind of look. I don't know. A lot of waveforms kind of look. So you can kind of be oh, that's a bass sound, or that's clearly drums or vocals or something like that. But I don't know. Most speech kind of gets loud and then just trails off.
Right.
So.
It's interesting. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of cool free programs out there. Let's see, what have we all?
Yeah,
got?
I was the Google is never gonna fail. Just type in free softwares and then read reviews though, so you're not downloading crazy things onto your computers.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Watch out for some, especially Photoshop alternatives. I feel there can be some sketchy ones of those since Photoshop is so popular.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I feel DaVinci is, like you said before, is a great free software that you can, take our word that that's worth it.
Yeah. And Blender. Blender too. I'm a big supporter of Blender. I'm actually one of the I've been a funder for Blender for years now, I think. I love that program.
It's pretty amazing.
I hear the passion in your voice.
Oh yeah, I followed it from. I think I was working with a student today, and we went back and looked at some of the. So every big update, Blender usually puts out. The Blender Foundation usually puts out a demo video or a short movie of showcasing the features. And I was watching. I went all the way back to the beginning, and one of their first ones was in 2008. And that was the very first Blender film that I ever saw, and that's what originally got me into it. So I've been doing Blender for, oh gosh, how many years is that? 2008, 10?
That's 13.
13 years. So I was in middle school when that, yeah. I think it was a middle school teacher that showed it to me. Or maybe I came across it online. I can't remember exactly where I originally saw it at, but yeah, and I think I've probably been a funder for at least 5 or 6. So it's amazing. It really is. I definitely am a big supporter of Blender. I think everybody should try it if you're interested at all in computer graphics stuff. It's pretty amazing software, and to be free too. So definitely worth checking out. Even if you're doing video stuff, it's a great way to visualize video projects. Say if you're wanting to sort of create a storyboard or something, you can super, it's got a bit of a learning curve, but once you get over that curve, I think for basic stuff it's pretty straightforward. You could use it for a lot of different applications, not just 3D modeling. You can do previs stuff and all sorts of cool artistic like applications. It's very fun to mess with. But so yeah, DaVinci Resolve is a big one. Blender, definitely recommend checking out. Of course, you've got GIMP and Inkscape, both great programs for graphic design. There's
Then are we saying Audacity is the only free audio?
So there are other things. Let's see what I believe one of them is called Traction Waveform. It's called Waveform Free is one that I've looked at.
Yeah, I've heard of that before actually.
That's cross-platform. They're and it seems to be like pretty clean here. I got to pull up my screen right now if you're curious. It's got this pretty like flat UI, which seems like relatively inviting.
That doesn't look too bad compared to.
Yeah,
looks cool. Their website's nice.
Totally. Yeah. But like I downloaded this and like tried to introduce it to a student, and like I kind of like was like kind of. I didn't find it as like simple as I thought I would.
Oh.
Something about the modular nature of the effects. If you look on the right side of the screen here, like it's just like kind of an unconventional layout. Somewhat. I don't know. I didn't like admittedly spend a lot of time with it, but like this is one that's out there that seems promising as one. What's the other one? Cakewalk.
Oh yeah, Cakewalk. Oh, gosh.
So there are a few cloud-based options as well. There's one called BandLab, and BandLab recently bought Cakewalk, this old digital audio workstation, and re-released it as a free thing. This one seems kind of similar. It's got a bunch of these cool like modeling effects that are people really like in Logic, like similar kinds of things. Although I have no idea how it sounds relative to that. But anyways, yeah. So those are like some things. Cakewalk and Waveform Free. There's also like if you're interested in learning like Pro Tools, which is kind of like the main professional thing, like if you're trying to get into audio for video posts or really anything other than your own if you're trying to work on audio as part of a team, like Pro Tools is the tool to know. And there's a free version of that. It's now a subscription-based thing, but the free one's free. You're limited in the number of projects I think you can work on, and I think you have to store them in the cloud or something weird like that. But you can start getting your fingers around that program. It's if anyone's listening to this who's like interested in pursuing audio in like a serious professional way, like want to go to like a real audio school and work in like post-production for film or something like that, Pro Tools is what you need to know.
What was the other one that we were talking about the other day? It's not free, but that's another good one to. We were talking about it about like removing like the AI, had all the AI.
Stuff. So I was mentioning some like third-party tools that I use for music, and among those tools, I use like a separate standalone application for mastering at least individual songs. It's a tool called Ozone that's made by a company called Isotope. Isotope makes a bunch of like processing plugins. Ozone is designed for like finalizing songs. So I do all my like post processing there, just because it's a convenient tool to do that with. But they have this really popular among all audio production worlds, this program called RX, or like people call it Isotope RX.
I've seen a lot of pro video people use it. It's got some really, really interesting features. I'd love to get it in here.
I mean, I have it on here.
Try it out sometime. It's very interesting. It is not a free program, but
no, the thing is pretty expensive. You can get them in these bundles, but here I got it pulled up. Check it out. So it's like an audio editor, but it's it does spectral editing. I don't really know how to use it at all, but it has all these like sort of different tools built in. I don't even know what this sound is. Oh, this is like a vocal from one of my songs, and you can see like, so it's got all the different overtones split up into these different bands in the spectrogram. So it's kind of interesting. So like my understanding is like you can just go in here and like like
What?
edit stuff. I don't know what you can do to it though. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can do these like spectral editing
You
things.
can draw right on the.
Yeah. Well, like, so what is that tool supposed to do? Brush selection, magic wand selection.
What?
Oh yeah. So this is basically
So bizarre.
it's like Photoshop for audio.
Yeah, I was like, wait, is this an audio thing?
Yeah. Right. So like.
Talk about want to get into like the nitty gritty of an audio form, like a waveform or.
Yeah. So look, I'm like editing just those frequencies.
What?
In that section.
So weird.
Haha, this thing is like magic.
Bizarre.
Yeah. So there's other cool tools like Pro Tools has like a neat feature where like if you're looking at it in this way, you can just like draw on it and like redraw the waveform. What? Like if it has like a little like pop, you can just like
slice it right off.
Just draw it away. What? Again, I'm so not into this. Oh yeah. So it's like instant.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't like this method.
See, I mean, like this is some of the stuff.
It's like all depends on what you're trying to do, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Like I definitely the application that I've seen it used in film stuff and like doing, you know, for voiceover work. Like if you're, you know, really trying to
like, what are we looking at?
Corey still had his camera on Zoom. That's interesting.
Yeah, I've had access to Zoom Corey this whole time.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
His alter ego.
He has like pink lipstick and 3D glasses on.
I have some fun video effects going on behind the scenes over here. Oh dear. There it is.
Okay, well, yeah, I think, I mean, you could talk about things forever because I feel like the Google search, you could fall down a well Google searching. But I think a lot of it is knowing what you do like, and then say you're looking for a free software, you know, start looking at things that are similar to what you already like, or really just trying things. You know, especially technology moves so fast. It's like just trying things out and learning what's available is a great way to start, or to like learn new softwares.
Totally. I suspect, I know all the paid programs that I've mentioned, I suspect the paid programs that you guys have mentioned as well, like have trials. I'm pretty sure Ableton's trial is like 3 months long.
Oh wow. That's a pretty generous.
I think it's got a 90-day trial.
Yeah.
They know the learning curve. They're like,
yeah, and there's tons of educational material there too. They want to like rope you in and get your money, right?
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, I forgot about that. Trials are a good way to start too. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, like I've definitely known people who like make a new email address, re-sign up for the trial. Like whatever.
I don't know if Adobe does trials anymore. Maybe they do. I think there is.
If you've never had an account, which I feel like everyone knows the like multiple email hack, you get 30 days.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There are free trials of the whole Adobe suite.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you can always try them out, but then you got DaVinci, you could just go get it and use it forever, and you don't have to worry about a trial.
Yeah. There's a really popular digital audio workstation called Reaper.
Oh yeah.
That a lot of people like as kind of a Pro Tools alternative. It sounds like. I mean, like any digital audio workstation alternative. It's one of the cheapest things around. I think it's $60 for the full version. But we're not supposed to say that it's free software because it is $60 for the full version. But you can. It has an unlimited trial.
It just keeps bugging you. It's kind of like a WinRAR.
It's a nag screen.
Yeah. It's one of those ones that says, "Hey, buy me." Like,
if you are willing to click through the nag screen, you can have Reaper. And Reaper is a pretty cool tool. I've been meaning to set that up here. I also don't have any experience in that one, but I hear a lot of people rave about it for just having the nuts and bolts features they need to do, like recording mostly. Not so much like it seems more about like the traditional recording people than like the music production people. But it's, you know, for like podcast recording or something like that, I'm sure it'd be great.
Yeah, that's definitely one that I've heard quite a bit about. I've used it a little bit, but yeah, it's funny that there's not really one. I mean,
Right.
Audacity is like kind of the one that's the free like audio thing. I feel like quick AI machine learning video editing. A class on that next month.
I think we were talking about AI audio processing. Actually, weren't we?
Yeah, I
Or what were you
wish
talking about?
that we had. I wonder if we could do a machine learning video, because there's been a lot of stuff about, and I'm not super familiar with it. I'm not sure exactly what you're thinking, but there has been a lot of talk about like interpolated like frame rates is a big thing in like AI right now.
Upscaling.
Like, upscaling of frame rates.
Yeah,
So
upscaling,
taking
yeah.
like a 24 frame movie and upscaling it to 60.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely a big thing within the video world.
But that seems to be like more about someone's off training some AI somewhere,
Mhm.
and then or train. I think we should call it machine learning, right? Because it's not artificial intelligence. Someone's off training some machine learning models somewhere, and then we play with it. There's some like a big breakthrough where someone's got some machine learning model that can actually break apart the different parts of a song.
Wow.
And now there's a bunch of different applications that have come out using that algorithm that they trained.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Spleeter is the name. So if you're like pulling an acapella of a song, I used to tell people that you couldn't do that. Like 2 years ago, someone would ask me how to do that. I'd be like, you can't. Now you can.
Wasn't that something in RX that we were talking about? Like you could like actually just like bring down the vocals and
Yeah,
not the music or something like.
Yeah, so this is what we were talking about when we were talking about machine learning stuff earlier. It was like in these isotope tools, they've trained all these models on a bunch of different music, and then you can, like, there's one called like spectral rebalance, I think, where you can like turn the vocals up or down like within a track, or like there's one specifically for bass. It's been a real lifesaver when I've been like mastering people's songs, and they send me a mix that's like they're attached to, but I think needs help still.
Yeah.
So I can't ask them for a different mix or whatever. I just like fix it. But it's pretty amazing. You used to not be able to do that.
What's that saying where you like you fix it and don't ask or whatever? And is there a saying for that?
I'm not
Where
sure.
you don't have to send them a draft and you just fix it and like see if they know. And most of the time, people won't even notice if you fix something.
Yeah, I'm like, if you did a good mix, then they're not saying anything. They're gonna be like, "Wow."
Yeah,
that sounds
totally.
great."
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like the goal of mastering audio or mastering music is to be like the second set of ears to be like, hey, like this mix could use something. So like I usually try and give people feedback when they play me the song. I'm like, okay, like if I think it's fine, I don't, I'm like, oh, this is great, let's do it. But if I'm like, oh, like you turned the common mistakes people make, too loud drums or like way too loud bass or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can mess with that but if you can give me a mix that's closer to what you want, what you really want. Oh, I just felt like a Spice Girl.
What do you really want, Corey?
I heard that echo.
Got
So, like I'm hearing myself on an echo. So that's what you
You
want.
have
and
backup
that's what you
singers.
want. Yeah, I got a little call and response going over here. Anyways, it's just kind of like a sweetening process mostly, like the mastering. I'm just like trying to make it sound like your mix but better. But sometimes that sounds less like your mix.
Oh, I've done it with videos before. It's your video but better.
Mm-hmm.
Then edited down or fix the sound or it's it's something that you can a subtle change that just like makes their life a lot easier.
I have a friend that does that. He'll send videos and be like, feedback, and then you'll give him feedback, and he's like, oh, I already sent it to where it needs to go, and it's like, what was the point of all of this? Like, I thought you wanted feedback for change, not just like for whatever you're doing.
It's a hard thing. Getting feedback is it can be difficult. It's definitely like as an artist something that I think all artists, it's a challenge to get feedback sometimes, especially if it's not, you know.
Yeah, I
Some
mean,
people
really
are
anybody,
really,
especially if you spent a lot of time on something.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I guess it's not an artist specific thing, but it happens a lot to artists where you're presenting a project to a group of people or something, and you need feedback from it, and
Yeah.
definitely is something that you have to kind of learn how to take that
Yeah.
and constructively. I guess it depends on who
People
the
got to learn how to
person's
give it constructively too.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I was
difficult
gonna say
yeah.
it goes both ways. Especially when you're an artist, especially it's like you're most likely being vulnerable or sharing a part of yourself
Mm-hmm.
on top of being worried you didn't like do a good job or whatever.
Right.
Right.
So
Yeah, I think it's definitely, it can be a delicate process, but it also is the learning process. So you don't get better if you don't get if there's no criticism.
exactly.
And that does make it hard. I feel like I'm definitely working with some students. It's like we'll do this project and it can be what you want it to be, and then the next one we'll work on it some more and dive more into where things can improve.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a new thing for me to learn, being still fairly new, doing the MARZ thing. That whole process of like being aware of that, like the gradual, like, because you don't want to discourage anybody at the same time as like you still want them to improve, and like giving that criticism can be that constructive criticism can be difficult. Like, how do you approach it without totally tearing apart their project? So
well, and also like so you've done all this stuff a lot longer, so you have like this sort of different perspective, and like you've seen the big picture so much that you've seen the forest so much you can look at the trees,
right.
Like, whereas a lot of the people come in here are just like, I just want to make a song, if I'm working with someone right now who's we're making an album together. They don't know anything about music production, but they really want to make an album. They're writing songs. They have like lyrics with melodies that they're able to like sing for me, and I can dictate, But like, I'm making the backing tracks like with their feedback, but we're like kind of sitting together and working on it. Because I'm like, if we didn't do that, they'd never make their album.
That's
right?
true.
You know what I mean? Like, and they have these songs that they wrote, like they need a backing track to record them too. And it's like, there's a certain element of like, not everyone needs to learn how to do everything. Do you know what I mean? So it's like if you want to be a singer and like collaborate, and like what you want to do is be a singer who collaborates with a producer, like I'll be that producer, and like we'll work on just that aspect of it.
That's a good way to think about it.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because I feel like I've definitely continued, like, kind of had the approach of like it's good to try to at least do every part of it.
Oh yeah.
Like,
so there's that too. Like I'm always talking through what I'm doing. I'm like if it's something that I'm like, you can do, I'm like, here, you try it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, if they're like, oh hey, like I have this, like there's just like this big gulf of information, where like they have that big picture vision, but it's like there's so many little things that go into it I don't know. It's a different perspective on it. I don't know.
Yeah,
but it's also every individual who comes here is different too.
In kind of the format that we work in, this sort of one-on-one thing, typically you would be working with a team in a lot of this stuff. Like, you'd have these different roles. Like, in video, you'd have the cinematographer wouldn't have to worry about the sound stuff. Most of the time they're worried about what the picture is.
Yeah, right. Like when it's really a whole crew of folks, it's like you have your focus.
But then again, to be able to understand those roles is super important, to understand how everything flows, and like be a sympathetic team member, I guess. Like, understand what they're trying to do, and be like aware of the whole process is super important. I think especially as like a team building skill, knowing how much work your programmer or your artist puts in as the sound designer is like super important, and vice versa, to be able to like build that team value, and like every person is it wouldn't be what it is without that one link in the chain kind of thing. So doing all those different roles is a good
ideally like people would cycle through them all.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like it's a great opportunity.
I mean, let's be real, when you begin, when you start making media in any capacity, I feel like you do play all the roles.
Especially at
until
this scale.
you start to meet people, or you find people that you work well with, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, it's especially in the media arts, it's definitely a team skill. I guess if you're a painter, you can do your thing, and you can be in your studio, and you don't have to think about anybody else, and they don't have to worry about what anybody else is unless you're doing a big mural or something, and you've got a small team of people. But I feel like for most studio painters, that's an individual art form, but for this media arts, all the different stuff that that we're promoting here, at least with these programs, like the team is a big part of it.
Yeah, it's all about it.
Yeah.
At least like having the production crew and the talent.
Mm-hmm.
It turns into at least a 2-person affair.
Yeah, I think so with most everything.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at any of these movies, or even like at the end of a music video, or if you find the credits for like a music video, it lists, that's why there's a million names there. Because,
oh, totally.
That's all the work that went into this thing, and then these are all the people that like filmed those spaces.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, there are people that can do it, as the one single artist. It's it's doable, but it's a tough road to
I feel like those people have a team though.
Still
like,
even, yeah.
So there's there's lots of solo musicians, right?
Right.
But they have huge teams.
Oh, they still have so many people.
Yeah.
Teams.
There's an interview with Spike Lee where he's talking about like still being in Brooklyn College and being commissioned on like a real film project, or not real, but like big deal. Like he was getting a check for it. Mm-hmm. And he was like, people were thinking that I didn't like to work alone, but truthfully, I just hadn't found like my production crew. So he was like, so I was like the sound manager, the director, the editor, like my name's listed all these times, and it like wasn't to be big headed. It was like literally just I didn't have anybody else. Like that was just like what it was starting out, like making films, is like I'm doing all the roles because one, I can't afford to pay nobody, and two, I don't have anybody who's willing or able. I just haven't even made those connections yet.
Right.
Yeah, and I'd like to, as MARZ goes forward, like promote that sort of idea of getting, making those connections and having peers, connect with each other that are interested in those roles, like, having someone, another student produce for another student, or like, stuff like that would be amazing. Somebody who's really interested in although it definitely, it doesn't seem like we get as often people that are interested in the technical side of the art form, which can be just as fun. And I think it's just as fun, just like setting up the stream.
Yeah,
like it's
I
all
agree.
Technical. There's not really much
if
creative.
You have an
obvious.
editor.
Well,
if you have an editor who like likes to edit, loves to edit, and is good at it, like hold on to that person. Absolutely.
Jay, I would argue that you've done some
creative
things here. Like it's within some like constraints. Like it's not just we're not just free to do anything here right now, but like you've like framed the stream in a certain way. Like you've made the bumper things. Like like there are creative choices to be made.
Sure.
Like we could get. I mean, I guess it's not like that creative when you're just like miking voices or whatever, but like, like there's, like from the set design to the lighting, like we're
those
making choices.
voices need to be mic'd.
They do need to be mic'd, of course, but you know what I mean, like it's
yeah.
You're not like choosing the mic like for the sweetest tone here. It's more just like what the best mic for the job kind of thing. In this kind of thing. In the music world, we're all like dorking out about our signal chain, like which vintage mic into like what vintage preamp is going to give us like the best sound or whatever. But anyways, like that's creative too. Even if you're just like the recording engineer capturing someone else doing the creative thing, like that's actually probably more creative than this thing even, like because there's the way you mic up a drum kit changes how we perceive it and how it sounds, the impact it has, like all kinds of
doing
stuff.
art with wires.
Yeah.
Yep. Essentially, I mean, you're,
well, like with that, it's like letting the recording be art as well as the performance and as well as the writing of the song. So it's like the third element there. And if you think of it that way, then it becomes a lot more of a creative activity.
Right. Yeah, it shouldn't be like any of these things shouldn't feel like a job. It should feel like you're trying to, create something and show the world something. I think that's what inspires me to do all this, is just providing a creative outlet and being creative every single day to do to inspire other people. So it's a huge part of the project. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yep. Well, how do you feel? Did you have a list of anything else you wanted to cover, or should we?
No, I think we're good. My computer's actually telling me it needs a charger. It's nowhere near me, so of course. But no, I didn't have any other ones. We talked about most of the ones that I'm familiar with. I wasn't sure how reliable lists off the internet were for software. I feel like equipment was a little different. But yeah, I just encourage folks to try things, talk to people see what the internet's saying, read reviews. Or really those free trials. Yeah. Or go to MARZ. Yeah. They'll teach you things.
Yeah. We were happy to discuss this at length with anyone willing to talk to us about it.
Hours if you'd like.
Perfect.
We're good at that. Cool. All right. Well, I guess we'll wrap up then, and next week I think we're doing I'll be hosting a screenwriting workshop-y thing. Going over. Yeah, it's gonna be kind of more technical, I think. A little bit of not so much like plot and storyline sort of stuff, but more like how to format a screenplay. Just sort of talking about the process of screenwriting. It will probably be pretty casual. But I don't think. Are you gonna be here next week, Corey?
I think I will.
Okay, I think Corey will be here with us, and we'll talk about he can ask why you do things certain ways.
Yeah, totally. I'll be happy to be the complete ignoramus, asking all the what seem to be the obvious questions to you.
Yeah.
Or to me that maybe aren't obvious to you. I don't know.
Awesome. Cool. Well, yeah. Tune in next week, and we'll be here for that. Hopefully, we'll see.
Writing.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.